I'm Dr. Christina Chester, and welcome again to our MCPS video series, Waymaking. Our goal is to help families make their way through many of the emotional challenges we are faced with today. I have with me today Ms. Cheree Price, who is a school psychologist in MCPS. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me today, Dr. Chester.
All right. And so today we are discussing how anxiety impacts our students. And so for our first question, can you share with the audience, so what does it mean to be a student who has anxiety? And how does a diagnosis of anxiety or one of the anxiety disorders impact our students in our schools?
Great question. So anxiety is a mental health condition, and it affects how students worry, their fears. Physical symptoms can be related to anxiety and how they engage in the school setting. It can be diagnosed at any age. And oftentimes, we see students that have different symptoms of anxiety related to how it impacts their functioning. And it's present in all children of all ethnicities, socioeconomic backgrounds. And like I said, it can manifest in a variety of different ways.
So let's get a little bit more in depth with that. And so what are some of the symptoms of anxiety? And so what are some things that our students, families, and staff should be aware of? So let's say if a student has a diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. Great question. And there are other types of anxiety, but the most common is generalized anxiety disorder. And it's an excessive worry or fear that absolutely takes over a part of your performance or your engagement in a number of activities. Usually the student will have a very difficult time controlling the worry, and it's associated with a number of different symptoms on top of that excessive fear and worry. Those symptoms include being restless or feeling keyed up or on edge, being easily fatigued, having difficulty concentrating or your mind going blank, irritability, muscle tension, and sleep disturbance.
No, thank you. And I know even in working with families, a lot of times because the students are having trouble concentrating or they may be sleeping a lot, that families think, oh, my child is just being lazy, when the truth is it's anxiety.
Yes.
And that's impacting them. So that's good to be able to share with them some of that information to help them to try to, distinguish that it's not because of lack of will. Sometimes it's just due to the mental health condition.
Absolutely.
And so then my next question is, so what are some of the types of treatments that can support students with anxiety disorders?
Yes, anxiety is absolutely able to be treated through medication, therapy. A lot of students who I know that I work with who have generalized anxiety disorder work with a therapist. Some techniques are exposure, because oftentimes, as you just mentioned, a student can come off as being lazy or that they're avoiding something, but really it's that underlying emotional condition that is wanting them to avoid something that makes them very anxious or fearful or worried. So those are the best treatments for anxiety. And in the school setting, we can address it in a number of ways. We have a couple of different plans that can help students that need better access to the curriculum or support throughout their day.
No, thank you. And so then, do you have any suggestions or feedback for families and students to help them to stay resilient during this time?
Absolutely. Anxiety is something that definitely can impact your resiliency. And I think for a lot of families, it's hard to see because it is an internalizing diagnosis. We don't always see it manifest in physical symptoms, or, we don't always see students saying it out loud. So I would definitely encourage families to continue to have conversations, keep the communication open between you and your child. Let them know that even if they have fears that others may consider irrational or, not important, that you are there to listen to them, to hear them out, to help them engage in some of the things that they are fearful of so that they're not afraid of avoiding it or wanting to avoid it. Oftentimes students with anxiety may have difficulty coming to school. So just telling them that you'll be supportive, you'll work with the adults that are trusted for them and finding ways to help them manage their symptoms because they can make it through and be successful.
No, thank you for that feedback, and just want to also remind our families who are watching and our students that if, as Cheree was discussing, we want our students to go talk to our families, but we also want our families to come back and talk to the school because there are supports that are available at school as well, including, potentially if you need support through a 504 plan or an IEP. So
Yes.
always talk to the staff or your administration in your building if you have concerns around what can we do at school to help them. All right. So with that, I want to thank you, Cheree, for your time to be with us today. And we want to thank our viewers for joining us for Waymaking. To send us additional questions and topics to discuss on the show, please visit the link on your screen. Also, please go to our YouTube playlist to find additional shows in our series. And please join us next time on MCPS Waymaking.